I watched the stack of blue chips slide across the green felt. It wasn't the money that made my stomach drop. It was the way Leo looked at me while he took it. He knew. He knew I'd seen what was happening under the table. He knew I wasn't going to say a single word to my husband. Mark was laughing, oblivious, pouring another round of expensive scotch for his friends. I just stood there with the empty tray in my hands, feeling the weight of a secret that was already starting to rot. Mark and I had been married for 6 years. We were the solid couple in our circle. No drama, no screaming matches, just a quiet life in a suburb where the streetlights hummed and the lawns were always trimmed. Every Friday night was poker night. It was a ritual that felt as permanent as the mortgage. The same 4 men sat in our dining room. There was the smell of stale cigar smoke and the clink of ice against crystal. I didn't mind being the hostess. I liked the noise. It made our big, empty house feel full for a few hours. Leo was Mark's best friend since college. He was the one who stood as best man at our wedding, adjusting Mark's tie before the doors opened. He was the one who helped us move into this house, carrying the heavy oak dresser up the stairs while we laughed about our future. He had a key to our front door. He was family. Or at least, that's what I told myself every time he caught my eye across the kitchen island. Mark always said Leo was the smartest guy he knew, a shark in a custom suit. I used to laugh it off. I didn't realize that sharks don't stop hunting just because they're invited to dinner. We were happy, or at least we were comfortable. Comfort is a dangerous thing. It makes you stop looking for the cracks until the ceiling starts to fall. I poured the drinks. I cleared the plates. I never doubted the man sitting at the head of the table. I thought I knew exactly who I was sleeping next to every night. It started with a spilled drink. Not a big deal, just a glass of ginger ale tipping over onto the dark hardwood. I knelt down with a towel to soak up the mess. That's when I saw it. Mark's hand wasn't on his lap. It was hovering near his pocket, passing a folded slip of paper to Leo under the table. It was quick, professional. If I hadn't been at that exact angle, I would have missed it completely. My heart did a strange, jagged little skip. Why was Mark giving him notes? They were playing for $20 buy-ins. It was supposed to be a friendly game. Later that night, after the house was quiet and the guests were gone, I found the paper. Mark had missed the trash can in his haste. It wasn't a note. It was a receipt for a private loan I didn't know we had, a massive one. I felt a cold chill settle in my bones. I looked around our beautiful kitchen, at the granite counters and the designer light fixtures. Suddenly, they looked like stolen goods. When I went to bed, Mark was already snoring. He looked so peaceful, so innocent. I didn't wake him. I didn't ask. Instead, I waited until Monday. I called Leo from a burner app. I told him we needed to talk about Mark's debt. He didn't sound surprised. He sounded like he'd been waiting for the call. We met at a coffee shop 3 towns over. He looked at me with this pitying smile that made me feel small. He told me Mark owed him more than just money. He told me Mark had been gambling with things that weren't his to lose. I should have walked away then. I should have gone home and confronted my husband. But Leo reached across the table and touched my hand. His skin was warm. "I can handle this, Sarah," he said. "We don't have to tell him, you know." I let my hand stay there. Just for a second. That was the first lie. The first time I chose a secret over the truth. The meetings became a habit. Leo said he was restructuring the debt so Mark wouldn't lose the house. I believed him because I had to. If I didn't believe him, I had to face the fact that my entire life was a house of cards. We started texting. Late at night, while Mark was asleep beside me, I'd be staring at the screen. The blue light of the phone felt like a confession in the dark. Leo would ask how I was holding up. He'd say things like, "You deserve better than this stress." He never said, "You deserve me," but the air between us was thick with the implication. One Friday during the game, I was bringing out a tray of sliders. Mark grabbed my waist and pulled me close. He whispered, "I'm winning tonight, babe. Everything's turning around." I looked over his shoulder at Leo. Leo gave a tiny, almost imperceptible shake of his head. He was letting Mark win. He was subsidizing our life to keep me quiet. I felt sick. I felt like a co-conspirator. I started lying to Mark about where I was in the afternoons. I told him I was at the gym or the library. I was actually in Leo's car, parked by the lake, listening to him tell me how much he admired my loyalty. He started buying me small things. A gold necklace I had to hide in the lining of my purse. A book with notes scribbled in the margins. Every gift felt like a weight. I was drowning, but Leo was the only one offering a hand, even if he was the one who had pushed me into the water. One night, Mark almost caught us. He came home early and saw a shadow by the back door. I told him it was a stray cat. I watched him go to the window, his hand on the glass, looking out into the dark. I stood behind him, my heart hammering against my ribs so hard I thought he could hear it. I realized then that I wasn't protecting Mark anymore. I was protecting the version of myself that Leo had created. I was no longer the loyal wife. I was a woman who kept count of the lies she told before breakfast. It happened on a rainy Tuesday. Leo called and said he had the final paperwork for the debt. He told me to come over to his apartment to sign off on the release. When I got there, the air felt different. It wasn't about the money anymore. The pretense of the loan had evaporated. He handed me the papers. Mark's signature was all over them, messy and desperate. He had signed away his interest in the house. He had signed away everything. Then Leo stepped closer. "I did this for you," he said, "not for him." I looked at the papers, then at him. He didn't move. He just waited. He knew exactly what he was doing. He had bought my husband's life, and now he was waiting for the commission. I realized in that moment that I could take the papers, go home, and end my marriage. Or I could stay. I could accept the price he was asking for his silence. I didn't say anything. I didn't cry. I just leaned forward and kissed him. It wasn't a movie kiss. It was desperate and fueled by a year of suppressed panic. The moment my lips touched his, the Sarah who lived in that suburban house died. I wasn't a wife anymore. I was a secret. I felt the weight of the betrayal settle into my skin like permanent ink. There was no going back. I had traded my husband's debt for a soul-crushing debt of my own. I had become the shark. The aftermath wasn't an explosion. It was a slow, agonizing rot. I went home that night and sat across from Mark at dinner. He was talking about his day, about a promotion he hoped to get. I looked at his face, the man I had promised to love, and I felt nothing but a hollow, ringing silence. I couldn't look him in the eye. Every time he touched me, I flinched. He noticed, of course. "Are you okay?" he asked. "You've been so distant lately." "I'm just tired," I told him. It was the only truth I had left. I was exhausted from the weight of the things I couldn't say. The poker nights continued, which was the cruelest part. I had to watch the two of them interact. Mark, grateful and oblivious. Leo, smug and silent. It was a play, and I was the only one who knew the script. I started having panic attacks in the grocery store. I'd see a man who looked like Leo and my breath would catch. I began to hate them both. I hated Mark for being weak enough to lose our future, and I hated Leo for being strong enough to steal mine. The guilt was a physical thing. It felt like a hot coal in my chest. I stopped eating. I stopped sleeping. One night, Mark found me crying in the laundry room. He held me and told me everything would be okay. He told me he'd fixed the money problems. He thought he'd saved us. He had no idea that while he was fixing the bank account, I was burning the house down from the inside. I wanted to scream the truth at him. I wanted to see the look on his face just so the lie would be over. But I stayed silent. The silence was the only thing I had left to call my own. Eventually, Leo moved away. He got a job offer in another state and left without saying goodbye. He left the paperwork on my doorstep in a plain manila envelope. The debt was gone. Mark thinks he's a self-made man who crawled out of a hole. He walks taller now. He's more affectionate. He thinks our marriage survived a rough patch and came out stronger. He doesn't know that I'm a ghost. He doesn't know that the woman he loves doesn't exist anymore. We still have friends over. We still drink bourbon and laugh. But I don't host poker nights anymore. I told him the smell of cigar smoke makes me nauseous. He doesn't question it. He just smiles and kisses my forehead. He's so proud of the life we've built. I live in a beautiful house built on a foundation of secrets. I wake up every morning next to a man who doesn't know who I am. And I've realized that the worst part of a secret isn't the fear of being caught. It's the realization that you've become someone you don't recognize, and there's no one left to tell. You are the only witness to your own disappearance. Every time the doorbell rings on a Friday night, I still hold my breath. I'm not waiting for a guest. I'm waiting for the moment the world finally realizes I'm not actually there.